Hi, I'm Pastor Bill Vigue of Meat of the Word Ministries. Today I want to deal with the subject, the parable, a very important parable that Jesus taught, Matthew chapter 20, called The Laborers in His Vineyard. Now, I want you to take note of a couple things. I'll take a little bit of time to describe the parable here in a moment, but just think about what the impact of this message has. I think too many Christians have just read this too quickly. This particular parable, number one, Jesus was relating how connected Israel, the original chosen people, are along with the church. There's a relationship between the two. As the Apostle Paul had said, we're grafted in, the church, the Gentile believers today. Also, I want you to notice that this parable, the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, relates to all believers of both the Old Testament and the New Testament. This parable has nothing to do with salvation, has nothing to do with getting saved, being born again, or harvesting the field and going out there and getting souls won. This is referring to the reward system that God will have when He returns. During that 75-day period after He comes and defeats the army of the Antichrist, He is going to judge all believers. We are going to be raised from the dead, and those that are alive and remain at His coming, we will be raptured or caught up or changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, and then we will be caught up together with the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore we're to comfort one another with this. And where is the Lord going to go? After that moment, He's coming down at the end of the tribulation period. He will come to judge the Antichrist. He will come to judge the armies of the Antichrist. He will destroy them. He will come to save the remnant of Israel that'll finally cry out to Jesus Christ as, help us. And He will come down and He Himself will execute judgment on that army that is launched against the Israelites. And a remnant of that nation will be saved. And that's the term where it says, and all of Israel, or all the remaining ones that survive that period. At that time, we are all going to stand before the not the great white throne judgment, but the judgment seat of Christ. It's actually the bema seat of Christ, there to be rewarded for all the works that we did while we were in our body, all of our labor, all of the believers witnessing for God, what we did, both good and bad. The good things we did, He will highlight and He will remind us, and He'll bless us and give us our reward in different degrees. Also, those things that believers did that were not so good or bad in our body, they will lose some of the reward that they could have had. It is called the bema seat of Christ. Now, the laborers in the vineyard is a very, very important message here, because it refers to, number one, Jesus's business style, or I should say God the Father's business style, His management skills. We see the subject of greed that comes up, the subject of jealousy that comes up, and also we see the subject of generosity and God's generosity. Now, it's very interesting as you look at this and you examine it. And again, it's in Matthew chapter 20. Take the time to go read this sometime during the day, because this is an event that's going to take place. Again, it's a judgment seat. It's an event that is going to take place after the believing, all those that had died in faith are raised from the dead. And secondly, all those that might be raptured in the final rapture at the time of at the end of the tribulation period. In other words, this is referring to the judgment seat of believers who are going to be in their brand new body. And one of the things we're going to see is that we're not going to be totally perfect, even though our body will be, the redemption of our body will be fulfilled. And now we will have that spiritual new birth. And as a result, we will be given our brand new bodies, an indestructible body. But then we're also going to still be going through the process of having our soul renewed. Now, a lot of Christians haven't heard this before. It's like way over their head, but this is exactly what this parable describes. And what you see here is that there's going to be murmuring and grumbling and complaining and actually finding fault with God, and some people even be offended with God for being so generous and having mercy and forgiveness. That's what that parable describes. Now, keep that in mind. I'm going to have to take this up, in another session as well. But keep that in mind, that when we're changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we're not going to come to a perfect understanding of God. During that millennial reign of 1,000 years that will follow, we will be coming to learn the ways of God, so that we can discern better how to lead and rule and reign with Him in His kingdom. In other words, we will line up our judgments and our assessments through a perfection process through that millennial reign. We will be continually being perfected. So I want to get into that a little bit more tomorrow. You pay attention to this. I think you'll find it very interesting and extremely helpful of exactly how God operates in rewarding and distinguishing things for us. You have a great day. God bless.